What's up guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of NeoVintage News. Now for you guys that don't know, I basically run over the biggest stories of the week in video gaming, give you guys my quick thoughts on it. At the end I give you guys what I've been playing and what my game recommendation of the week, and then we usually wrap it up from anywhere from 25 to 45 minutes. So sit back, relax, and we're going to start with these stories. So this week we don't have a ton of stories. It's closer to about 4 stories this week, but they're very substantive and big stories, so I think we can get a lot out of it. But let's just get started. So the first story we're going to talk about is the PS5 lack of backwards compatibility, or the alleged lack of backwards compatibility. So a Ubisoft support page explains how its files will transition from PS4 to PS5, as each publisher seems to be taking a different approach to cross-gen upgrades. Now keep in mind, Ubisoft is very prone to leaks and stuff like that, but again, we have to take this story with a grain of salt because this is a Ubisoft conversion thing, not so much a Sony statement about their backwards compatibility. So take it as that Sony as of right now hasn't said what their official stance on that is going to be. But yeah, backwards compatibility will be available for supported PS4 titles, but not possible for PS3, PlayStation 2, or PlayStation games. Update Ubisoft's support page has now been amended to remove this reference to older PlayStation hardware. As of yet, Sony has still not commented, and this is a GameSpot article, so I'll link that down below. So it's very interesting. Again, this is going to be Ubisoft's approach to next gen. So their games won't be compatible on PS1, 2, and 3 on the PlayStation 5. But that doesn't mean that PlayStation is not going to be adding some first-party titles and other developers to play ball with them. So it doesn't seem like it's going to maybe be the full-featured suite that we see from Xbox. But at least for Ubisoft, it doesn't seem that their back catalog is going to be coming over in any sort of way. At least native running with discs and stuff like that. So it's very interesting as we come closer to next gen. What the backwards compatibility is going to be a thing. To some people it means nothing, to some people it means everything. Xbox is obviously trying to have that kind of unified approach to backwards compatibility, so you can play the past, the future, and the present all on one machine, which really resonates with me because I like to jump around, and I like, some days I want to play a 360 game, sometimes I want to play the best of the best, newest brand new game, sometimes I like, putting on a Sega Genesis game. I'm kind of all over the place. So backwards compatibility is a really efficient thing for me, not having to take out older machinery that might be failing, dusting, not running the best, and be able to just pop a disc into a new machine and be able to run it natively. That's what I love so much about the Xbox One. And I would love if the PS5 was able to do that in some capacity. Obviously, because of the cell architecture of the PS3, that's a real issue for PlayStation, and they found some ways to get around it with PlayStation Now and stuff like that. PlayStation 1, for some reason, on the PS4, they've really just kind of dropped the ball on that and ignored that generation as a whole, which is really strange considering how much effort they put onto the PS3 generation into creating that kind of virtual library. PS2, they had a couple select titles and people who played ball, like Rockstar and stuff like that, putting their games onto PS4, but it was very limited in scope, and the whole idea of putting an old disc into a new system and be able to run it or emulate it in some capacity has not been something Sony has, first off, maybe even expressed interest in, but gotten out technically to actually work. So it doesn't seem like for PS5, as of right now, that that's something that's going to magically appear and that they're going to start doing. It will at least be able to play the PS4 games, which is going to be nice. It's going to make the generation transfer a lot easier. But unfortunately, as of right now, it doesn't seem like they'll be able to play generations before that. But again, that's through Ubisoft. Once Sony says something, we'll probably get a more concrete idea of what their actual strategy going into the PS5 generation is actually going to be. So the next one is probably the biggest story of the week, which is the Nintendo Mario 35th Anniversary Direct. And we got a crap ton of news from this and different announcements and stuff like that. And so we could just jump right into it. So Nintendo is celebrating the 35th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. And for this anniversary, they announced a ton of awesome things that are coming up. So I'm just going to run through the different announcements in no particular order and give you guys kind of my quick thoughts on them. Because I have thoughts about pretty much everything that they announced. And this is really exciting stuff. So the first one, Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. This is set for February 12th, 2021. Now, for you guys who don't know, Mario 3D World was a really awesome 3D platforming game on the Wii U. It was pretty much the last major Wii U game that hasn't been brought over to the Switch in some capacity, and finally we're getting that in February, and it looks like they're going to tag on a new part of it at least, Bowser's Fury. I don't believe this was previously released DLC. I think this is something new that they're adding to the game. So it's really exciting to be able to jump into this. This is kind of getting the Tropical Freeze treatment where they're adding a little bit more into this kind of Switch Deluxe version that's coming over in February 12th. This is an absolute purchase for me. I do have this game on Wii U, but I wasn't able to play it front to back because I jumped into the Wii U generation so late and I was playing mostly Mario Kart, and then shortly after I was able to get the Switch anyways, so I didn't have the Wii U for super long. And this was one game that I didn't really get to dive into, so I'm definitely getting it on Switch and excited to jump in. And the fact that they're throwing in a little bit of extra bonus stuff in it makes the value proposition even better. So yeah, I'm super excited for this. This game is phenomenal if you've never played it before, and I'm glad that's finally going to get the treatment I think it deserves, because again, so many things were so criminally underlooked during that Wii U generation, which is obviously why Nintendo's bringing them over, is just to give them a new lease on life, if you will. And 3D World definitely deserves it. The next one, Super Mario Bros. 35. So this one seems to be kind of like a battle royale type game, and it's online multiplayer, more similar to like a Tetris 99 obviously than a Fortnite. But it's really awesome, and I have to give credit to Nintendo. They are so infinitely creative over there. Like, this is such an insane and interesting way to go about Battle Royale, and kind of having that platforming, but also sending attacks to other players and different obstacles, and you kind of have to think on your toes about what you're navigating, you know, from the one side of the screen to the next, because again, it's a platformer, but at the same time having kind of an offensive edge to knock other players off. It's really genius, and it looks like a really phenomenal game. Probably not something I'm going to dive into too much personally, because again, those kind of battle royale online games I'm just so terrible at, and it's not really my type of gameplay. But I'm really excited for this, and I think this is a brilliant move and a really creative way to use their existing IP. Next one, Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Edition. So this is launching on November 13th for $50, and it seems like it's going to be quite limited. And this is one of the things that it seems like it's going to be manufactured to about the end of March of 2021 with some other stuff that they announced. So that's an interesting cutoff that they have at that time. I don't know if that's maybe the cutoff of the fiscal year. This is just a transitionary period. Are they launching something new in March? That is unknown at the moment. But yeah, this is really, really dope. So for you guys that don't know, Game & Watch are really old school. So the Game & Watch was actually one of Nintendo's handhelds that they launched before '89, before their Game Boy console. So it wasn't cartridge based or anything like that. It had the game pre-installed and everything. And it looks like they're kind of jumping back into that nostalgia with a new one with an LCD screen, pre-installed Super Mario Bros. Game onto it with a clock, and some that I forget this old ball juggling game that they have on it. So it has 3 games pre-installed for it. This is something that I absolutely want, but I know it's going to be hell to get. $50 is a decent price proposition. I'm not mad at it. The fact that Nintendo themselves are saying how limited it's going to be tells me that this is all going to go into the hands of scalpers. This is going to be a nightmare to get anyways. Nintendo devices always have this scarcity issue. The Nintendo Mini, that Mini NES console and the SNES Mini consoles were damn near impossible to get. So there's no way that I'm probably going to get my hands on this, but I'm going to really try, and I'm keeping my eyes out for pre-orders. Maybe I'll be able to snag one at one point. But yeah, that is really exciting, and I'm excited to jump into that. That's obviously very much a collector's item. There's not too many like practical gameplay time that you're actually going to get out of it. The next one's really interesting, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. So you can race physical karts with custom courses around your house, and it's out October 16th for $100 as kind of like a set. And this is very interesting. This is obviously more in line with the toy Lego figure type side of Nintendo that they're launching lately with Mario and stuff like that. It's definitely more in line with that. Again, the physical carts look pretty awesome, and you can kind of race around your house, and it has some kind of Switch component where you're using that as a camera. It's very interesting. I'm curious to see how the tech works once it's out and everything like that. Probably not something I'm going to personally get, because I'm not really into kind of like those physical toy environment stuff, but like I'm really curious to see how well this does. I'm sure this is going to resonate a lot with families and collectors and Super Nintendo fans and stuff like that. And it does have a bit of a multiplayer component as well, because I saw people kind of bringing their own carts and linking up consoles in some capacity. So it has multiplayer built in, really, really interesting. And it's not the direction that I saw them taking Mario Kart, which is, yeah, obviously they have the phone component, they have the traditional game component, but having a physical component of it where someone's, you know, literally racing around your house is a very interesting way to kind of fuse like RC car gaming and traditional, you know, handheld gaming. So very fascinating. Leave it to Nintendo to be very creative in that sense. The next one is the original Super Mario Bros. All-Stars pack that came out on the Super Nintendo. Is now available to play via the Nintendo Switch Online service. So that's kind of a bonus thing. If you subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online, if you go to the SNES virtual library that they have built in the console, now I guess you have access to Super Mario All-Stars. Now, for you guys that don't know what All-Stars is, this is basically where they remade the first 3 games that originally came out on the NES on the Super Nintendo. Bonus graphics, they play beautifully, and then also I believe they tagged on the Lost Levels, which was the original Super Mario Bros. 2 that came out in Japan. They didn't release in the United States, and instead they kind of repackaged a game called Doki Doki Panic as the original, Mario 2 over here, because I guess maybe they felt like Lost Levels was way too difficult. It was a weird thing they did back then, but this version has the Lost Levels tacked on there. So if you're interested in playing the original Super Mario Bros. 2, that's there. Obviously, this is very much common knowledge for a lot of Nintendo fans, but if you didn't know, now you do. The last one is the most exciting announcement of this presentation, which was the Super Mario 3D All-Stars. So this is an All-Stars version of their 3D games, obviously. It's out September 18th for a full $60. It contains Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, and includes enhancements and new features. It's important to note that Galaxy 2 is not included in this, which is really interesting and makes me wonder, like, did they just not include it because they wanted it a clean 3 games? Did they not include it because they plan on doing a 3D All-Stars 2? That's unclear at the moment, but yeah, this is very, very exciting. There's going to be enhancements in terms of like fixing the aspect ratio, maybe cleaning it up a little bit. It's very interesting that they're choosing the 64 version from the N64 and enhancing that, and not taking the DS version that was already enhanced version of Mario 64. So that's a very interesting move, and I'm super excited for this. I did actually buy it virtually or digitally immediately after they announced it, and I went onto the eStore. But then I saw that Amazon had it, and I would like to have a physical of this of some capacity, because from what I understand, this bundle is going to be, I guess, limited. A lot of people were saying, oh, these games are not going to be available via, as of March, the end of March, which is the cutoff time that they said that they're not going to be producing the physical game or this 3D All-Star game digitally. From what I understand, maybe this bundle is a timed thing. Why, I have zero clue. Leave it to Nintendo to have weird rollout things. I don't know why they make some of the choices they do, but it seems like the bundle, if anything, is going to be the time-sensitive thing, and less so the game's availability. They're probably just going to separate from there and maybe sell $29.99 each, and then to get all 3, it's going to be more than the $60 bundle. But the $60 bundle will be launched as a time exclusive or something like that. Don't know why they're doing that, but I'm going to be there day one, so it doesn't seem like something that's going to really impact me. But that's why I really wanted the physical component of it, because I didn't want to run into any weird things with the digital version as of the end of March. I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, that's a fantastic thing. For so long, we've been asking for these games to come over in some capacity to the Switch, and obviously people have found out ways to emulate it and stuff like that, but to have these games officially released from Nintendo in all their glory is a fantastic thing. I'm personally most excited to jump into Sunshine. That's my personal favorite, but Galaxy, I would love to revisit right now. I've only played Galaxy 1. I have both of them on the Wii, but I haven't really dived deep into them because, again, I'm really not a fan of motion controls, but I'm curious to see. They figured out some kind of motion control ways using the Joy-Cons on the Switch for Galaxy. I wonder if there's a way that you can play it completely traditional. From what I understand, there is a touch pad component to it using the main screen. I'd rather do the touch than the motion personally. I just prefer to play things as a one traditional handheld press button touch joystick. I don't really want to wave my hand around, so if they were find a way to kind of fix the controls a little bit, so maybe I use a little bit of touchscreen and then the rest I'm using the joy stick and the buttons, that would be ideal for me. But I am so excited to jump into these, and I'm probably going to try to play them all simultaneously. Honestly, I would think that I want to go to 64, then to Sunshine, then to Galaxy, but I really am not going to wait to jump into Sunshine. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, this is a fantastic thing, and $60, in my opinion, is worth it because of the enhancements. But I understand some people's argument where these are really old games that are, an old game is an understatement. These games have been around for quite a long time, and to bring them to Switch, essentially the same game, there's no real DLC added or anything like that, and to launch this as a full $60 experience when there's virtual console stuff that launched things for $10, and there's Raspberry Pis that you can play things for free. what's up with this, but I understand that first off, expecting Nintendo to drop these games for those kind of virtual console prices, that's a kind of a ridiculous thing to expect from Nintendo. And then on top of that, the enhancements and everything like that cleaned up on a new screen, I think it's worth the $60 purposely. But again, I don't mean to be a Nintendo apologist or anything like that. The next story, very interesting, is Hello Games is back with a brand new game, it seems like. So No Man's Sky developer Hello Games has a portion of its team working on a huge, ambitious new project that's very early in development. In an interview with Polygon that I'm going to link down below, studio founder Sean Murray explained that Hello Games is now made up of 26 people. 3 people have been working on a Hello Games short, The Last Campfire, with the remaining 23 split between working on updates for No Man's Sky, which has had some major updates recently, and a brand new project pretty much. So which Sean Murray calls a huge, ambitious game like No Man's Sky. He's also made it clear that it's not a sequel, and he's unsure exactly how to discuss the game in advance. And this is obviously due to the controversy around No Man's Sky's release and the information drops about that and expectations and hype around it. So it's a very interesting interview that I highly recommend you go check out. And again, I'm going to link it down below. I'm going to have an IGN article which links to the Polygon stuff if I'm not mistaken. And this is a really interesting thing. Hello Games has had a very tumultuous kind of journey. No Man's Sky obviously came out to a lot of fanfare from PlayStation. It was hyped up as this really big thing. And at launch, it kind of fell short from a lot of people's expectations for the game. And it was one of those tricky things where Sean Murray maybe overpromised in some capacity. And some people maybe overhyped and overexpected this small team to be able to basically deliver this experience that was essentially kind of a universe generator algorithm game, and it was really empty in many ways. But as the years have progressed, they've really doubled down, and I have to commend them. They've eventually deliver the game that they promised initially, and this game with the Beyond expansion and all this stuff has really turned into something really, really awesome. And it's really not something for me that I am interested in, but if the initial kind of proposition that they set up for No Man's Sky is something that interests you, it did eventually get realized in the form of these DLC drops and major expansions and stuff like that. So I gotta commend them. They really did deliver something amazing eventually. It's just a shame that the launch was so, issue ridden and tumultuous. So finally, it seems like they're back, and it seems like they're really trying to temper expectations by keeping a quiet, low-key approach to this and be like, listen, we're working on something that's really early in development. And I seriously doubt that they're going to have this crazy fanfare rollout for the new game, because they don't want the bad press that they got the initial time. And it's a real shame, because if they've created something really amazing, it would be awesome to see that kind of like blown up and shown off in all of its glory. But unfortunately for them, they have such kind of PTSD related, or game related PTSD related to their previous launch, that they're probably going to try to have kind of a more low-key affair to temper everybody's expectations. So if it's really awesome, everybody's pleasantly surprised. So I'm really excited to see what they are doing here, if they're going to stay in sci-fi or maybe jump into something else. And I'm going to keep my eyes out on it, because I have a lot of faith in Hello Games, even though they had a really rough go-around last time. I think they're really capable of some really awesome things. And the fact that a team less than 30 people were able to make something like No Man's Sky is really, really impressive. So there's obviously some immense talent at that team. The last story is just kind of a quick one, which is Warner Brothers Gaming is no longer being sold. Now, this is kind of a follow-up to a story that I talked about maybe some time ago at this point. And so after reports saying that AT&T was looking to sell Warner Brothers Interactive, which includes studios like Rocksteady, NetherRealm, and WB Montreal, and obviously these are the Batman Arkham team. This is like the Injustice makers, Mortal Kombat most notably for NetherRealm. It has now removed its gaming division from the list of assets up for sale. As reported by Bloomberg, AT&T has decided it was too valuable to unload during its effort to pay down debt and streamline. According to people familiar with the situation, AT&T now seems to see the business growth potential in Warner Brothers Gaming. So this is really, really awesome to see them finally see the worth of these properties that they have, and it seems like it's really doing well for them. And not to mention, now that they've announced Batman Gotham Knights is on the way, Suicide Squad is on the way, there's a lot of opportunities for them to kind of recoup a lot of maybe lost costs that they had. And now that Rocksteady is finally back away from their extended hiatus, there's some real opportunities for Warner Brothers Gaming. And not to mention, on the horizon is that Harry Potter full console game. Don't know much about that yet. It hasn't had a formal announcement yet, other than the fact that we know pretty concretely that it exists. But in terms of an announcement, that hasn't come yet, and I would imagine it probably has to come relatively soon. That's been in incubation for some time now. So it seems like they've seen enough things on the horizon, and they've made up enough money that the price proposition of selling it, this even at I guess a $4 billion valuation that they were originally going to sell for, that's not even enough at this point for what they feel like it's worth to them. So that's really awesome, and I'm excited to see it do well for them. So I guess we can move on to the latter half of the show, which is what I've been playing and then my game recommendation of the week. So what I've been playing, let's just start with Avengers that released on Friday, along with another game that I've been playing. And I talked about it maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and on the podcast itself, which is going to be up on Monday, which I'll go into deeper thoughts about Avengers, is that I wasn't super hyped about this game upon launch. I thought it looked kind of off. I thought it looked a little clunky. It wasn't playing the way that maybe it interested me, but then I jumped into the beta and it turned out to be really something awesome, and I had to kind of take my thoughts back and give it a fair shot and be like, you know what, maybe I was a little harsh on this game. And sometimes I feel like when you get into the business of game critique and talking over big stories like I do, and you're a podcast and stuff like that, sometimes you got to shoot from the hip and give your thoughts and be honest with people about your feel. But also I think it's important and it's your responsibility to kind of clear that up, take that back, and explain that, hey, maybe I was wrong about something, maybe I misreported something, or maybe I just kind of shot a little too early and they proved me wrong. And I feel like in many ways that was kind of Avengers for me. I shot early. I was looking at early builds, and then when I actually got to get my hands on it, they proved me wrong. I was very pleasantly surprised, and now jumping into it, I'm very early in the game, but I gotta say, what little I've played so far, I'm really feeling what they've did. I'm really impressed with it, and it's a little jittery at times, but generally it's running good. It's a beautiful game. It plays really fun, and I like the customizability of the different heroes, and I definitely see what they're doing, and the fact that there's all this free DLC attached to it, and yeah, there's like paid cosmetic stuff, but the fact that all these new characters are going to be coming and rolling out, hopefully with some story-based stuff too, is just really awesome. And I'm really feeling what they're doing, and I'm glad that I made this purchase. And so yeah, I want to take back my negative thoughts that I put on Avengers at one time, and gotta say that once I gave it a shot, they delivered a really awesome experience, and I'm excited to see the experience from front to end and give you guys my deeper thoughts, because again, an Avengers spoiler cast is definitely going to happen. Hopefully it can happen within a month or so once me and Steve are able to complete the game in totality. The next one is another game I've been playing, and also my game recommendation of the week, and it's Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Now, before I get deeper into this game, I got to give my caveats. I am by no means a massive skater fan. I played it a lot growing up. I was a big fan of Tony Hawk Underground. I played the Pro Skaters on the PlayStation 1, but as the games progressed, I wasn't really into it. I never really got too much into the skate games until later on. So my experience with skate games are a little bit limited to the old ones, but that kind of made me the perfect person to jump into this remake of the original 1 and 2, which I think they knocked it out of the park. This game is fantastic. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's exactly how it's supposed to feel. It felt amazingly. I jumped into it. I was immediately hitting a lot of the old tricks that I was doing, and yeah, I was falling down all the time too, really understanding and getting my muscle memory back. But I jumped right back into it, and just hearing those old songs, seeing these old places, but all with a fresh coat of paint on it, and having that arcadey gameplay, because again, this is way more arcadey, less sim-like. So for you guys who are more into the sim type of skaters, Skater XL is probably going to be a better fit for you. I was talking to one of my friends about it, and he said, yeah, that's definitely a better fit for you. But if you're into the more arcadey, point-based, jumping all over the place, doing all these crazy things, and just having a lot of fun in kind of an open area, this is definitely the game for you. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. It's at the budget price of $40, and I very much think it's worth it. They have a whole bunch of new skaters, a whole bunch of new boards and songs and environments and stuff like that. So lots of great things to have about this game, and it's more than worth the money that they're asking for it. I'll give you guys deeper thoughts about both these games as the subsequent weeks progress, and on the podcast on Monday, I'll have played more of these games. I'll have more thoughts to give you then and be able to talk it over with Steve. But yeah, that's what I've been playing, and that's my game recommendation for the week. A little bit of a shorter week this week because we had less stories, but lots to talk about. And again, a lot of these stories are going to be talked about on the podcast coming out this Monday. So if you would like to see me go deeper and bounce back on ideas with me and Steve, go check that out. I'm going to have that up. It's usually posts around mid to late day, so keep your eyes out on it. But usually it goes up every Monday. So till next time, this was Jabril. I'll see you guys next week. Love you guys.